35. Eerily, Paranormal, Cop and EMT Stories. According to Reddit. Number 35. I was working as a paramedic, and my station had a mental hospital in our area. They knew they weren't allowed to call us for basic transports, that it had to be an emergency. We get a call there one night for a possible stroke on the 4th floor. We know that the 4th floor is where they keep people who were guilty of murder, rape, etc. And that a police officer would need to be with us. When we get there, the nurse has this look on her face that we are really about to walk into something sketchy. She tells us the lady won't stop looking to the left. Her excuse for calling us and saying it was a stroke. When we walk into the room, she is in full conversation with something outside the window. We ask her to talk to us and she gets quiet. We load her up and the Leo cuffs her to the gurney. When we get outside, she looks back towards the window and then quickly shoots her head to the other side and said, "It's so cool how fast they fly." About 5 minutes from the hospital, she asks me if I'm worried that the ambulance is about to break down, so that her and her flying fellow friends could rape and kill us? Whoa. Okay. About 5 minutes from the hospital, she asks me if I'm worried that the ambulance is about to break down so that her and her flying yellow friends could rape and kill us. I said no. And she started this screeching laugh that I'll never forget. The Leo was as white as snow and said nothing to her. We drop her off in the emergency room, come back outside, and the ambulance had cut off and wouldn't start. I went back inside to ask the Leo if he had turned it off, and they said no. Leo walked inside with us. We couldn't find him, and dispatch sent a bunch of cars to look, but he wasn't at the hospital. They found him sitting in his cruiser back at the mental hospital, and he couldn't remember how he got there. To this day, I really think that her and the officer saw something. Man. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. This is definitely going to be one of those lists where you're just along for the ride trying to figure out what the hell is really going on. So, as we travel up on the list of 35 eerily paranormal cop and EMT stories, we arrive at number 34. Bing bong. I was a cop for about 5 years, and worked for a boss that used to tell this story all the time. Just a warning, this story contains self-harm, so don't listen if that'll trigger you. When he was a rookie and got his first car, they mostly walked back then, he patrolled his district and decided to check out the cemetery area. Kids often went back there as it was near a skate park to do extracurricular activities, fucking in a graveyard. As he drove up, he saw a person who had hung himself from a tree. He immediately called it in, and the scene was properly investigated. Thank God Logan Paul wasn't around. Come on, Kyle. The weird part is, the next night he became curious, so he went back to the same area. The tree was gone. The city had not put in any work orders to cut the tree. The city I worked for did not do that type of thing, as it costs money, and the city was cheap. There was no stump in the ground. There was no place the tree could have gone. He was in that spot for 6 or so hours during their investigation, so he was familiar with it. It spooked him at the time. Number 33. Police officer working the desk from 1500 to 2300 hours. Fire alarm signal goes off. First shift dispatch is already punched in, so she took it. I'm heading out the door to the fire department when 911 rings from the same address. I answer it. No one's on the other end. I assume they barely got to call before passing out. I bolt out the back door, hop in my squad car, radio in the 911 call on channel 3 that both police and fire can hear, that I'm going directly to the house. Okay. I arrive just as another unit shows up. No signs of smoke, no sign of anything. Older woman comes up, walking up the street, pushing a wheelchair with an elderly lady, her mother. They live there and just went out for an early evening stroll before dinner. I tell them what we have going on. Nobody else lives there, and as far as the elderly lady can remember, the alarm was disconnected from the house years ago during renovations. They don't have any alarm system either, just a couple of smoke/fire detectors. We do a walk around the house, get to the back door of the kitchen, and you can clearly see and smell gas. We turned off the gas at the main, set up some fans to air it out, and find a cracked gas line going to the oven. Daughter said she spilled some coffee she was making for their walk and had to move the oven a few inches to clean. Probably broke the line, pushing the oven back in. Nothing else in the house is disturbed, and both phones are on the hook. Fire chief shows up at about 15 minutes into the call. He goes over to the two ladies and gives them both a hug. He's nearly in tears. The elderly lady in the wheelchair, her husband, was the fire chief 60 plus years ago for our department. The daughter, her husband, passed away a few years ago. He was also a member of our department. Never believed in ghosts or spirits, but that call made me think that maybe people who spend their lives doing good are allowed by some power to look over their loved ones every so often. Holy fuck. Number 32. Not my story, but my husband's. He is a correctional officer and was working the night shift. He told me that around 2, almost 3 in the morning, he had to do rounds and do counting. As he was passing a cell, he said he heard an inmate bang on the cell door and scream, "Help!" He ran back to the cell, told the tower officer to open the door as he shines his light in the cell, and the inmate that is housed there wakes up asking if everything's okay. It left him confused for the longest time. My husband no longer works the night shift. Ooh, so spooky. Suck my farts. What the fuck kind of entry was that? Man. Number 31. Ooh yeah. My dad used to work as a correctional officer at a rural prison. He drove perimeter, which just means that he made circles around the jail in a truck, checking empty buildings for runaway inmates and just generally being bored for 8 hours every night. But he was also getting paid, my nigga. One night, my dad is parked on a hill just reading a magazine, a dirty magazine, when he starts to feel a thumping in his body. Did his heart start up? Because most law enforcement officers don't have a heart. Woo! Ba-ba-booey. Anyway, look, he described it as feeling when you get when speakers are playing a song with really heavy bass and you can feel the bass in your whole body. Anyway, he puts the magazine down, checks the rear view, and he sees someone outside the truck. He grabs his pistol and jumps out of the truck, weapon drawn, but when he gets outside, he sees a procession of Native Americans walking through the truck and directly through his seat, only to disappear at the exact spot he was sitting. He said it was clear that they were ghosts because many of them appeared injured. This went on for a few seconds, and then the whole procession disappeared. He called the other perimeter guy on his walkie-talkie to try to explain, and the other guy almost immediately stopped communicating. Turns out the other guy had seen this happen before, but didn't believe in ghosts, so he wouldn't talk about it. Well, if you'd seen some shit like this, okay, maybe, just maybe, you would send somebody else out there with a camera to see if they could see what the hell going on. You know what I'm talking about? If you're not brave enough to go out to where some spooky shit happened, then call up your the Logan Paul in your life and send him out on that spooky bullshit. You know what I mean? Not that you're trying to get him more views or anything, but maybe if he dies, then somebody will recover that footage and make the new Blair Witch, that we can all hate together. Fuck me. Fuck Blair Witch. Come at me in the comment section. As we continue up to number 30, my partner and I received a 911 call from an old woman having a dispute with someone. We get to the house and she says that she's alone. We say, "Who are you having a dispute with?" She says, "Oh, just this spirit in one of my rooms." Immediately, me and my partner look at each other and give the old, "She's elderly, it's probably dementia, something." As we're talking to her, she explains how sometimes a bad spirit comes around. She states that he's in the back room and the lights don't work. We try to tell her that the spirits probably aren't in her house and we have to get to another 911 call, but she insists we check it out. So we do. Now, the house, they say she was speaking about spirits. I'm sorry, of course I'm gonna have trouble reading this shit. Look at... Let me read this shit the way that it's written, okay? Because oftentimes I try my best to correct shit as I'm reading it so that it makes more sense and is easily understood, okay? But this is the way that this shit is written. Now, comma, the house, comma, they way she was talking about spirits, comma, made me believe something was there. Bitch. When we got the room, nigga. When we got to the room and she opened the door, seeing a ghost wouldn't have shocked me. She did say that it's usually in the corner up on the ceiling. Well, that corner was dark and had the freakiest shadow that legitimately was terrifying. My partner and I shine our flashlights on the whole room and thankfully, nothing was there. We told the lady, "Nope, you're good." Not the "you're" that you're looking for. Nothing going on here. I said to her, "If you feel there's a spirit there that the NYPD cannot help you, go to a local church, religious institution, or your choosing, and best of luck." Then we got the fuck out of there. Linda says, "Did the Blair Witch scare you?" It bored me, as it bored most people. Come on, man. There was nothing scary about the Blair Witch. And jump scares, are not scary. Not that I'm saying that it was heavy on jump scares. I'm just saying the Blair Witch had nothing going on. And I hated it. Okay? The concept was all that it had, and there's so many style over substance, gimmicky pieces of shit movies out there that it's like, why do I have to care about the first one to do anything? You know what I mean? The bottom line is this, okay? Think of somebody who raps, think of somebody who is a great fucking basketball player or something. You don't need to give a shit about this motherfucker because you don't really take stake in what they're all about. You know, you don't run your life based on some guy being good at this thing that he's done for the majority of his existence. The bottom line is, I can respect that movie for basically being one of the first found footage movies to jumpstart a genre and be its own thing. I can respect it without having to acknowledge that it's anything other than mediocre. You know what I mean? The thing is, yeah, it was the first to do that found footage movie shit. It couldn't be the best. It couldn't be the best. I would venture to say that the only time that the Blair Witch was a noteworthy found footage movie was when it was the only found footage movie. Okay, other than that, like, please, Jesus Christ, you can't just show people shit like this and this. How did it get a release like that? How did it get a real gangster ass release? Welcome to the Talking About Blair Witch Project stream as we roll up to number 29, Fire/EMS here. This is not my story, but Captain working overtime with us told us one day, and it creeped me out. The captain was on the first due engine company that was dispatched to a residential fire alarm in the middle of the night. Our dispatch protocols require us to send the first due unit emergency to a fire alarm, while the second due engine and ladder company respond routine. We go to tons of fires or fire alarms, and 99% of the time, they are caused by a faulty system or burnt food, so we usually don't get too worked up over them. Anyways, as they approach the neighborhood, they see the orange glow in the distance, and when they get on the scene, they find a around 4,000 square foot house with heavy fire showing on the rear, and that had already broken through the roof. The cause was then upgraded to, or the call was then upgraded to a working structure fire, and more units were dispatched to assist. The captain of the first due stayed on the outside of the whole structure for the whole time. So, he's on the outside in radio contact with crews that are inside fighting the fire. After the bulk of the fire had been extinguished and his operations were winding down, the captain sees smoke inside a second-story window and asks crews inside to go inside the room on the BC corner to make sure that the fire hasn't spread to the other side of the house. Jesus Christ, motherfucker. You couldn't have condensed this. The crews search for a few minutes and radio back, "There's no room there, sir." The captain is a bit confused as he is staring at what is clearly a window that is attached to a room of some sort. He relays details and instructions for where the room should be to the crew inside, and they again advise that they can't find anything. Incredulous, the captain asks the incident commander for permission to go inside of the structure so that he can show the interior crews exactly where the room in question is. His request is granted. He goes inside, walks up the staircase, walks towards the corner of the in question. There's no room there, just a hallway with a corner. No doorway, no window, no room. Knowing that there has to be something behind that wall, they breach the drywall and crawl through to find a child's bedroom. The bedroom had a dresser, a desk, a perfectly made bed that looked as if it hadn't been disturbed in years. For whatever reason, the owners of the home decided to wall off the bedroom and leave it just as it was, untouched and inaccessible. The captain said it was one of the strangest and eeriest things that he had seen in a while. Well, nigga, it's at the end of the day, it was just some people deciding they gonna wall off a fucking bedroom, my nigga. It doesn't matter how pristine or how long it had been undisturbed. This isn't worth it. And what's worse, you could have told this story in honestly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 less paragraphs. You out here spinning a tale for me, nigga. Goddamn. The only thing paranormal in this story was the fact that I somehow am suppressing the urge to find and kill people who don't know the definition of not being long-winded. As we continue up the list of 35 eerily paranormal cop and EMT stories, we arrive at number 28. And you could tell it was written by somebody who gets pussy because they don't have time to fucking waste 3 years. How about that? Jesus Christ. Not a cop, baby. But I was told this by a cop on night shift a couple of years back. It's about 3 in the morning. The sound activated alarms at the local school were triggered. The reason? They picked up on small children laughing. Hold on, let me We heighten this bullshit right now. Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. Skull Kid. I don't want no Skull Kid. Man, fuck you. Man, why you looking at my thumbnails? Anyway. The cop gave a big nope to the call and just half-heartedly shined a spotlight on the area from his moving car. My man. Oh, boy. Well, you gotta appreciate people being mindful enough to not even stick their dick in any of that crazy. A small kid laugh. Number 27. Patrol officer here. Wow. This is not my story, but my partner's, and all 3 officers on scene verified the story too. So my partner responds to a priority breaking and entering call. A house sitter / dog sitter calls and says that he can hear loud banging and footsteps coming from downstairs, the ground floor. He should be the only one home. The house sitter and the dog are both upstairs. The dog is in his cage, so officers respond priority, including a canine officer. The police release the canine into the house first to clear the house. The canine comes out empty-handed. 3 officers then go into the house and clear it themselves. Again, nothing and nobody inside. The officers then step out the front with the house sitter that called 911, and as they're telling him the house is empty, they see the curtains of the bedroom window on the 2nd floor open. They're heavy curtains, and they parted from the center, so they claim it couldn't really be possible for air vents to kicking on or anything like that. All 3 officers and the house sitter see it. Then the guy asks the police to come back inside with him because he's going to take the dog to a different home for the night, and he needs to get the dog out of the cage. The police refuse to go back inside with him. Not the best example of public service. Oh shit, y'all got pussy cops. Oh my god. Daddy Fat Man says, "Hey Kyle, the great and powerful." That's right. Nobody steps behind my curtain. They'd get a load of big dick. Who dares come into my big dick chamber? Number 26. Here's an odd one that I still have trouble believing today. Trouble believing it today. You physically had to be there to believe this. I was 19 and a volunteer EMT, and we got a 911 dispatch call to a house that's been abandoned for well over 15 years. The police, fire, and EMS all show up. Police sweep the house, say it's clear. So EMS, myself, and the captain go inside. We go upstairs to the top floor of this farm out, and it's extremely cold. The temperature outside had to be around 80 degrees. Oddly enough, the windows are wide open, so I slam it shut. The window took some effort, being as old as it was, to close, and looking out at the fire truck and ambulance and the clear view of the driveway. He asked me what the noise was, so I told him that I just shut the window that was open. We checked crawl spaces, closets, basement, which was also having a really eerie feeling of death inside. There were shackles in the pillar. I guess it was for farm animals when being butchered. At least that's what a firefighter told us. We then proceed outside, and my captain says, "I thought you closed that window." Looking up at it, I said I did. Who opened it? So I go back inside expecting someone to be still in there, and it was empty. So I simply close the window once more. Check the window too to see if it's spring-loaded, and maybe I didn't close it properly. Nope. Typical sliding window. So I shut it once again. I went downstairs and back out, the window still shut, and I look up and saw a man in a plaid shirt put his hand to the window And once I focused, he was gone. But easily decipherable that it was a white male in his late 50s with short black hair. So I thought nothing of it, okay? It bothered me when I got bored and daydreamed. I began to do a little research on the property about who owns it and if anyone lived there. To my surprise, a friend of mine said that his uncle lived there his whole life on the farm. He was the last one to pass away in the home. The uncle lived with his parents, which had passed prior in the years prior in the home. So I asked my friend if he was in his late 50s, short black hair, and died upstairs. His face dropped and he said yes. He passed away from diabetes. He did not take his insulin and was found dead by the brother a few days later. After that, I look into that window every day when I drive by, saying a prayer on my way to work. Nigga, you ain't gonna be able to say prayers, nigga. That's not how this shit works. You better call up Sam and Dean, get some fucking salt. Fucking burn them bones, you know what I'm talking about? Woo! Saving people, hunting things. The family business. Carry on my way, what's up? Number 25. Bedtime, check. Lights off, check. Quick look at Reddit, check. Supernatural EMT police cases, okay. 4 a.m., still awake. What the fuck was that? I hate these meta posts. Now I gotta go down just to make sure that it's actually 30 in my list. Was it 30 on the list? Let's take a look. 35, man. Fuck me. 35, man. God damn. 36. The bonus entry. My brother is a cop, and there was a weird house in the city that he patrols. It was a super old house and had a dirt basement where human skulls and bones were found. After all that, all sorts of crazy shit happened. Every family who moved into the house immediately tried selling it back or just fled and wouldn't go back. The city had had enough, so they just bulldozed the house and planted a garden or something there. I forget the name, but the house had a name like the Jenkins House or something. But anyways, there's a plaque now, and the garden that just says this is where the Jenkins House used to sit. Who is writing this shit? Oh shit, that's old man Jenkins' house. They bulldozed that and put a garden there. And they say that every other night you can hear the dogs barking, but when you go out there, ain't no real dogs. Ain't no real dogs, they ghost dogs, baby. Them some ghost dogs out on the old man Jenkins' garden. Shit. Oh my god. Number 24. Not a cop, but leasing agent. We deal with a surprisingly high amount of deaths. What? Brant was my worst suicide and most creepy. I'll never forget him, and he made sure of that. Brant was a weird resident, but nice. Always chatted with me, but you could tell he was hurting. And he had PTSD. Around Christmas time, his packages sat too long in the office for pickup, but I figured he was on vacation. Shortly after New Year's, his parents called and asked to talk to me directly. The manager hands me the phone and they tell me that they haven't been able to get a hold of him for weeks. I tell him to call the police department. We're not allowed to due to privacy laws. I grab my keys, head to his apartment. His dog Rocky is barking. I check the front door and it cracks open. The smell hit my face like a ton of bricks. He's dead. And has been dead. The police arrive. Brant shot himself and sat for 10 days. I had to ID him before they call his family. Rocky started to eat him due to going so long without food. Oh my god. Doggy eat people. Oh my god. Like the video. You know, you're like, come on, like the video. Come on, do it. Somebody disliked it? Psh, what a virgin, alright? God. Coming in here just to do that. Mad because they ain't getting that pussy. They only busy sucking dicks. The residents above and on the side behind him noped the hell out, and we let them go. At this point, I think I'm losing my shit because I keep seeing Brant out of the corner of my eye at work. Only at work. Sometimes I would see him walk by the office window and I would yell for my manager, who believed me thankfully but could never see him. About a month after we get his place cleaned up and turned over the apartments around, a pair of little Korean sisters moved in next door. The apartment shares a wall with his bedroom, and at this point no one in that area knows what happened, and because of Brant being a shut-in, no one knew him or who he was. Cookie, one of his sisters, comes in and asks me one day if he died in their apartment. I tell her no. She says a man is around her apartment and is distraught about not being able to cross over. At this point, I ask her if she's seen him, and she describes Brant. I tell her about what happened, and she assures me that she'll do a crossover ceremony for him that evening, and also gave me a bit of sage later that day. I never saw or felt Brant again after that night. What the fuck? You know, shit like this, you want to believe it, but what the bigafruits? Man. Number 23. Copier, baby. Wait, let me get another song here. What are the other songs called? How about Thunder Dreams? There you go. Copier. Got a call for a missing person. Lived at a large halfway house type apartment complex. The sponsor hadn't seen the person for a few days. We get a manager to unlock this woman's apartment to make sure she's not dead inside. We go inside and have a look. It's very dark. It's a cheap apartment with only a few lights, kind of a haunted house vibe. We check the bedroom, no one's there. Move into the living room and stop dead in my tracks. In the semi-darkness, written in a large swaths of black paint on the wall, is the phrase, "Don't fall asleep." The phrase was copied several more times in smaller permanent marker on other spots in the living room, like something was haunting this lady enough in the dark or in her dreams to make her want to never fall asleep. Made all my hair stand up. I noped right out and filed the missing persons report and never heard anything about it. Aw, Salty Chicken just followed me on Twitch. What a sexy little peanut butter munch lumpkin. Sexy little peanut butter munch lumpkin. Wow. Salty Chicken. That's the right seasoning. Number 22. God damn. As is normal, not actually a cop myself, but I got this straight from a cop involved. So these two veteran cops respond to a 911 on a nicer block in a shit neighborhood. They get to the house and are met by this older woman who is clearly an immigrant from one of the Caribbean islands, judging by her accent. She welcomes them in and politely tells them that she didn't make the call and alluded to having had previous issues with some of the local punk kids, so they probably made the call as a prank. Ain't that just a bitch? Kids can't make good YouTube content these days. They gotta prank old ladies, you know how it is. So Bob is not green by any standard and is pretty well educated for a cop, super rational guy who has faced absolute nightmares with unflappable stoicism. But damned if there isn't something about the house that's telling him to run and not look back. And there's no reason for it. The house isn't a mansion, but it's clean. It's well kept. The woman is annoyed about the prank call, but entirely cordial with them. There's no weird sounds or smells that suggest anything is amiss. Still, he can't shake this feeling of unbridled terror. They eventually finish taking the report and leave. After they get into the car, Mike looks at Bob and says, "Damn, I'm so glad we got the hell out of there. Place freaked me the fuck out." Now this worries Bob, more because Mike, in addition to being a veteran cop with that time in the homicide department, was also some veteran of an elite military unit, whose name entirely escapes me at the moment. He's an all-around badass. They both were independently freaked out, and that was bizarre. Still, it's a big city and they have other stuff to worry about, so they get back to work. But they're leaving the feeling unaddressed, and it didn't sit well with Bob. When he was on his own and had nothing pending, he went back to the neighborhood and found the block captain. Pro tip, if you want to know the details in a specific area, you find the block captain. So he asks, "Hey man, you know the Islander lady who lives on your block?" The captain says, "Oh, you mean the witch." And Bob is like, "What?" Remember those kids that were giving the homeowner a hard time? Apparently one of the local punks threw a rock at her window not too long ago, before Bob and Mike had visited. This shit, let's call him Punk, basically acted like an asshole prick when the woman confronted him about it. Witnesses say she swore he would regret it. That night, Punk's parents rush him to the local hospital, which is actually a really phenomenal hospital despite the neighborhood. He's in massive pain for apparently no reason. The ER runs tests, he's in multiple organ failure, and they have no idea why. None of their tests showed any reason why a previously healthy teen was just dying right in front of them, nothing poisonous, no injuries, etc. The staff valiantly worked to stabilize him, but nothing is working. At last, the parents went to the homeowner's place, throw themselves in the front door, and beg her to spare their son. The homeowner supposedly looked at them with an oddly neutral face and said that their son would be fine. Sure enough, for no reason that the hospital staff could fathom, the punk does a complete 180 during the night. All his organs start working again, he stabilizes, he's back to 100% come the morning. There isn't even any permanent damage to his previously imperiled organs. Bob later confirmed at least Punk's mysterious illness and equally astounding recovery. Bob's contact was totally creeped out when he told her about the homeowner. I believe it, and not just because I was born in Jamaica, but because I know that the Spanish people fuck around on that demonic bullshit as well, man. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? You know, that's your soul you're talking about, man. Look, man, a lot of people don't believe in a higher power and like a Jesus or godlike figure, but I'll tell you what, when you see evidence of satanic and demonic shit, it'll at least strike enough fear into you for you to fucking hope and pray that maybe there is something to oppose that, because if there ain't, we living in some scary fucking shit, baby. We are living in some scary shit. Here's hoping that you guys don't have that veil pulled off from over your eyes. It's gonna sound like I'm talking bullshit until it happens to you. And that's the crazy thing. When you're logical and rational enough to know that some things you just can't explain, you don't try. Okay? It's as simple as that. I have nothing to prove. Number 21. Ooh, baby. That one was fun. I've been in law enforcement for nearly 6 years, and I haven't had a few super... Oh, boy. Hold on. Sorry. Let me just go to this song. Fuck me. How about that? I've been in law enforcement for nearly 6 years, and I had a few supernatural things occur during my shifts. The most recent one was a call from 911. A call to 911, Kyle. The most recent one came from a 911 hang-up. I was riding two-man on a summer night. And it was around 2 or 3 a.m. when we get a call for a 911, and the caller hangs up. The only call comments was a call was placed to 911, and upon answering it, the person hung up. How many times you gonna say this, bitch? How many times you gonna say this, bitch? You wrote a whole paragraph to reiterate the same fucking thing over and over. I will kill you. When dispatch attempted to call the number back, no one answered. Ooh. The area in which I was working that night, I have basically spent my whole career in. There aren't a whole lot of streets I have yet to respond to. However, the address this call came from, I had never been to. I had driven past this road many times, but never actually revived a call from it. We pull up to this old dirt road and it has a metal chain. Nigga, it has a metal chain going across the entrance with a sign that says no trespassing. Before we have to figure out what's going on, me and my partner continue on foot up this long dirt gravel road. The road was maybe about 100 yards long. The shitty part was that on each side of the road was a tall chain link fence. Why this was crappy was because now me and my partner were now walking down a fatal funnel. If there happened to be a guy waiting for us at the end of this road with, let's just say, an assault rifle, we have no place to take cover. Thankfully, that didn't happen. We eventually reached the end of the road and there were 2 houses on each side. At first, we believe one of these houses is where the 911 call had come from. As I am shining my flashlight at one of the houses, I see a figure move from inside. Instantly, I'm like, oh shit, people actually fucking live back there? As I thought for sure the houses were going to be vacant. Shortly after, a man and a woman walk outside and ask what's going on. We tell them we received a 911 hang-up call from address 123 Main, I made it up, and asked if they had called. The man tells us that this address is not that one, and that the address you looking for is across the damn street, my bitch. He proceeds to tell us where the other address is, which basically is in the middle of all these tall weeds and forest looking area to the north of the fucking house. He says the house is vacant and run down and they can only reach it by foot. I ask him how far away it is from his house, and he says probably a couple football fields away. Jesus Christ. Now, while all this walking and investigation was going on, we had received, I think, 2 more 911 hang-up calls. Same address, same result. Before we made this trek out into the middle of the woods, we called for another car and eventually another 2-man unit respond. The 4 of us now wandered out into the woods, 2 of us with our assault rifles, 1 of us followed a barely beaten path to where we assumed we would find a house. Fighting spider webs and low-hanging branches, we eventually reached our destination. I am terrible at describing, but this house was straight out of any horror movie that you can imagine. It was run down. It had a tree that had fallen through the middle and had now become incorporated with the house throughout the years. The house was nearly falling apart and was completely overgrown by greenery. Having come this far, we decided to push forward, even though we were pretty sure this house would be vacant. Ain't that a bitch? After fighting through some thick brush, we find our entrance. We each have to climb over some fallen brick walls and over wooden shit before we actually make entry. My biggest fear at this point is that this stupid rotten house would collapse itself and we'd end up trapped inside with no one able to find us. We searched the entire house like we thought no one was inside, and when I say we searched the entire house, I mean the entire house. Nothing was left unchecked. Feeling satisfied, we all climb our way back out of the bullshittery and start heading back towards where the 2 original houses were. As we walk back, dispatch radios us to tell us that they received another 911 hang-up call, coming from the same address. This time, dispatch tells us that they were able to make call back, and when the person answered, they could hear what sounded like a child playing on the phone. What, my dude? The 4 of us looked at each other and decided we were done with this shit. Come on now. We had done everything that we could to this point, and we're not about to get called back into a possibly demon house because a child was on the phone. We clear the call, don't receive any more 911 hang-up calls for the rest of the night. Fast forward maybe 6 months, and it's dead-ass cold winter. 911 hang-up call from the same fucking address. This time, it's me and 3 guys who weren't there previously. I tell them the story to what happened, and all 3 of us are super psyched and want to go check it out. Or all 3 of them. The 4 of us walk back to this house. Much easier to get to since the cold had killed off a lot of the greens. The 3 of them decide to go into the house. I wait outside as I already had my fun. They don't make it too far once they realize that the house is about to collapse on itself, and we all leave again. No call back from the child this time. If I ever go out there again, I'll try to get a picture of the house, just so when I tell other people this story, they can have a better understanding of how fucked this house actually is. How's that for a payoff? The joke is that there wasn't one. Oh boy. Man, I'm tired of this, but I love you guys. So we're gonna go ahead and push through. Push through what's not even the final 20. Oh boy. I'm not a cop, but I had one tell me a story. When I was in like grade 6, I lived in Prince Edward Island. Okay. We had the opportunity to talk to an officer, and at the end, we got to ask questions, and of course there'd be the typical questions that kids would ask, like, "Did you ever shoot anybody?" Then someone asks, "What's the creepiest thing you've ever seen?" I probably don't remember all the details because it was years ago, but it went something like this. There was a small island just off the coast, and one night people had called the police to report a baby crying from the island. The police show up, and sure enough, they hear a baby crying. They make their way over to the cries, but when they get to the island, the crying stops. They search everywhere, and guess what they find? Nothing. No baby or any sign that someone might be there. They start to leave the island, and immediately the baby starts crying again. Of course, they go back, it stops. I can't remember how long they were looking, but they haven't found anything, and you could tell it had been bothering him for a long time by the way he talked about it. It always creeped me out, but I doubt I'll ever forget about it. Man, ain't that something? Hi, Faith. Hope you're having a great day. Oh, boy. Here we are, at number 19. Wow. Coast Guard. Back in 2008, I was deployed to the Caribbean on a counter-drug/migrant interdiction patrol. We ended up coming up on a chug-chug, which is a slang term for a piece of shit boat thrown together using spare parts. It was ridiculously overloaded with Dominicans and Haitians that were all headed to Florida. As per protocol, we dropped our small boats in the water and ferried all of they asses onto our boats and set up a small camp for them on our flight deck. To preface this, apparently voodoo and other weird cult-like religions are pretty prevalent in Dominican Republic and Haiti, or I think all of the Caribbean in general. Not Jamaica so much. Not Jamaica so much, you know what I mean? It ain't as crazy as y'all think it is. You know what I'm talking about? Oh boy. As we continue this story, we set up the camp and we start medically evaluating the children. What? It's depressing to say the least. Some of the ones that look out of shape or complain of some ailment, most of the time hoping to get medevaced off the boat to the US. While this was happening, I was standing on the fantail helping collect the odd bags and other belongings that we found in the vessel before we scuttled it. The area that we were inspecting the bags and other stuff was directly under the flight deck, which partially overhung the fantail. Nigga, what? Well, my LTJG was going through this duffel bag and pulls out what looks to us like a brick of marijuana or cocaine wrapped nice and tight in some kind of burlap material and cellophane, as long as it's not an IED. Upon unwrapping it, we found this shitty old leather-bound book with weird symbols and shit in it, as well as a few weird-looking wooden statues and other weird-looking trinkets. Well, as soon as we opened the book and started inspecting these stupid-looking wooden statues, we hear this blood-curdling shriek almost directly above us. We dart out from under the overhang, look up on the flight deck, and we see this older-looking woman absolutely losing her shit, screaming, flailing around, wide-eyed. I thought she was having a seizure, but she was apparently yelling out in Creole something to the effect of, "The spirit has been disturbed," and that we need to contain it lest death sweep around our ship. Our security guys are having a hell of a time getting this lady to chill the fuck out, chill, old lady, and can't even pick her up to remove her from the flight deck. The corpsman comes over to evaluate her, and my LTGAG, god damn it, that does not roll off the tongue, and I go back to looking through all of the shit that we found on the boat. We get a final chuckle out of this weird shit from the duffel bag mentioned earlier, and he closes the book. Puts everything back in this little bundle that it came in and wrapped the burlap material back around it. Almost instantly, the wailing and panicked shrieks above us stop. I look up at my LTJG with a look of relief, but I make eye contact with him and he glances down at the burlap bundle, walks over to one of the stand choins and says, "Fuck this," and hurls the burlap overboard. According to the corpsman, the woman returned to normal once she calmed down and had no recollection of her manic episode. I'm not really sure what happened that day, but it is certainly on my top what the fuck moments. Hey guys, let's talk about something real quick. Like the video if you haven't liked it, because what I'm about to say is probably true to you if you were listening to that story the way that I just read it. Listen. If you open some shit up and it was supposed to be some spooky, wooky, keep demons at bay type spiritual garbage and some lady started screaming and she was really away from you and couldn't see if you opened it, if when you closed it back up and she stopped screaming, you would have to open it again just to see if she would start screaming. You know what I mean? And then I would try to like do a cool rhythm with it, with her like screaming in the next room like, ah! Just open it and closing it real quick. You know what I'm talking about? It'd be cool. It'd be cool. But to take this list seriously, as we continue up the list of 35 eerily paranormal cop and EMT stories, we're only at motherfucking 18? Too old. That joke never gets old. Get it? It never gets old. I was called to a house with police at around 3 a.m. Relatively small, shared house with a lot of rooms and people who don't know each other living there. Caller reports that there's blood everywhere, all on the walls, the staircase, in the kitchen, on the doorstep. He thinks one of the upstairs residents is into dodgy stuff, which I assume was meant to be drugs or crime or some kind, whatever. Well, we open the door and sure enough, there is blood everywhere. It's all on the floor, all the way up to the stairs. It goes into the kitchen too, but stops at the back door. There's a pool of on the front door, but not a big one. A couple of cops upstairs ahead of me, and I'm there thinking, well, shit. If someone's lost this much blood, there isn't a great deal that we can do for them now anyway. It's probably a pig, right? Okay. If they're still in the house, we're about to have a major scrap on our hands. In the UK, police are unarmed. We go to the door that the dodgy guy is in. and knock. He kinda answers like, "Yeah?" The cops say they're police and they need to have a word with him. He comes to the door in pajama trousers and says he was asleep. He's not injured and has no blood on him. There's none in the room. He lets the cops have a search and his room is all fine. Seems like a regular guy to me. We speak to all the other neighbors in the house and the cops search their rooms and find nothing. No one heard anything. From what they told us anyway, no one had anything suspicious in their rooms. There was no blood in anyone's bedrooms. It was only on the stairs, hallways, kitchen, and front doors. The two cops call for a dog unit to attend and search the area. The dog arrives, but the tracks, the blood, no further than the front door steps. Whatever had caused that blood to come there seemed to still be in the house, and we had no idea whose blood it was. Thought it could potentially have been an animal's blood somehow, but unless it was a large animal, that was way too much for that. And I hope we have found a bleeding large animal in our search. I had a control pestering me to redeploy to another job, so I thanked the cops for helping me clear the house and said that I needed to go. They say they were going to do a wider search and then resume as well, as there was nothing that they could find. I never heard anything more about it, and as far as I know, there was no murders or anything like that reported after the incident, so it's still an absolute mystery. Oh, for the love of fuck. This fucking injury is giving me heartburn. And I have I think my antacids are in the car. That bag's been in the car for how long? You went to the dollar store to pick up like fucking hydrogen peroxide and antacid tablets. And all of that stuff's been in it for a while. And like, is the sun gonna ruin antacid? Should I have antacid that were in the car? Heartburn pills wrecked my life. How antacids can have serious side effects? Okay, Kyle, you're in grandpa mode now.
For 13 long years, Andrea MacArthur struggled to cope with increasing tiredness and apparently random muscle and nerve problems.
And it also made her look unattractively mannish. How is that possible? She's 13 years old, too? Oh my god. You're done joking, right? Are you done being jokey, guy? Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck back to the list. Oh my god. You can do this. You can do this. You can do this. Okay. I'm not sure if I'd describe it as paranormal, but it was certainly strange and spooky. I didn't feel creeped out at the time, but I had been one of the people living. If I had been one of the people living in that house, I definitely would have. Well, damn. My man Kevin didn't even leave. He didn't even write a fucking comment. You know what I'm talking about? He too gangster for that. A special thanks for the Kevin, the paranormal Kevin. Thank you, paranormal Kevin. We love you, Kevin. Wow, we love you. My God, I can feel myself becoming erect with the power of money as we arrive at number 17. The power flows through me. I work in pre-Civil War town that has lots of antebellum homes that survived the war. Ghost hunters have been to the town on several occasions. There is this one antebellum mansion that is more of a museum that gets alarm calls semi-frequently. Every time the side door to the house is open and the kitchen has all cabinet doors and drawers open. Every fucking time. The caretaker says that it's been happening since she started looking after the place about 30 years ago. We don't clear the place without backup. Spooky. I don't even think I have the balls to go to places like that. Let's be real. Number 16. My dad An ex-London police officer tells a story of getting a call to an unknown troublemaker's house. The whole family is outside, refusing to go inside. Apparently someone or something was upstairs. He just thinks they're making issues. Enters the house, it's a mess. Newspaper all over the floor like they're using it as a rug. Checks the lower floor, nothing. Walks up the stairs, and 3/4 of the way up, the temperature just drops. So much that you can see your own breath. The newspaper covering the floor is wet, and he has to check each room with the worst feeling of dread / eyes watching him that he's ever had. Nothing is moving, but he says he's never felt such a sense of malice. They nope the fuck out of there, as there's nothing that they can do. But my dad, who was on the opposite side of the picket lines in the miners' strike and responded to Broadwater Farm riot saying it's the worst moment of his life, having to walk up those stairs knowing that there was something all around that wanted to harm him, was probably the worst. Probably the worst. Number 15. This is a good supernatural / paranormal story, rather than a creepy one. Glad that you've prefaced your own story with this, you fucking bitch. Fucking wish I could get your face in my hand so I could just smack your ass one time. Yeah, this is a pretty good story. Yeah. You know, girls are overrated. This is the kind of this is what I get when I see somebody say shit like this. I'm a detective. Okay, yeah. And spent some time as an expert on sex crimes and crimes against children. Oh no, you better watch it. We don't talk about stuff like that. Not on a Kyle list, okay? How am I gonna get the fans, the YouTubeage if I'm talking about kid rape? You know? That's not what I'm about. Come on. One case I had in midnight. It came in at midnight. A young woman with a toddler comes into one of the precincts to report her ex-boyfriend having raped her during a custody argument. What the fuck? Long story short, it was legit and one of the most violent and sadistic cases that I've ever had, so I'll spare the gruesome details. I still have no idea how this woman made her own way to the precinct with a toddler. Part of the investigation required me to talk to the toddler, and I'm a child forensic interviewer as well. During the interview, the toddler recalls their father becoming angry and hitting the mom. Then the toddler said that the nice woman showed up, and she couldn't see past the nice woman. The nice woman held her and told her that they were both going to be safe and sang her a song in a different language. The toddler said that the nice woman went over to the front of the door and knocked on the door. Then the nice woman helped them and their mom to the car before flying away. In the victim's interview, she said that her ex-boyfriend had a knife to her throat and put it to the skin to cut her throat open. But he got distracted for some reason, then ran out of the apartment. She had no explanation why. The suspect was caught about 8 hours later. He confessed to absolutely everything. When I asked him about the knife to her throat, he said this: I swear to God I was going to cut that bitch's throat open, but I thought I heard a knock at the door and thought it was the police. Once I saw it was clear, I ran outside. He is now serving life in prison, and the mom and toddler are doing safe, and they're well. I'd love to know more about the nice woman. Nigga. Wait a minute. You know, that story may have been worth some big titties. You know what I'm talking about? Number 14, okay? Number 14. Fellow EMT told me this story 2 years ago, so I might butcher it a little, but I get chills hearing it at the time. He was working the overnight shift in Quincy when dispatch gave him a call to do a well-being check on an address that called through a landline, but no one was picking up on. No, nobody was calling, so the address called the place, but nobody said anything. Brilliant. Naturally, they go to the house with the police and fire, or, you know, like the fire department people, to check on the possible part. Nigga. The house is completely dark with no electricity even running through it, and it's abandoned. They check the surrounding houses, making sure people are okay, and then, after, figure that nothing was wrong. Okay. A couple of hours later, we get the same call. It's the same situation. So this time they go to explore the inside of the house more. Fire and police are in the first and second floor, while my friend and his partner go to the basement. When they get down there, they're searching around with flashlights and they get a chill. Then my friend's partner screams and say that something grabbed him. They fucking dip upstairs into the front yard. Everyone is out there in a few moments and it's silent. The fire chief then asks if anyone else got a weird chill in there, which they all agreed to. Call's over. Few more hours, they get another call to the same house, but no one goes in this time. Wow, dude. I feel like whoever asked this question knew some shit, dude. I feel like whoever asked this question asked it because something crazy happened to them. All right? And the question asked once again in the interest of clarity. Cops or other law enforcement people of Reddit, what are cases that you worked on that made you think even for a moment something supernatural or paranormal was going on? Holy bingamus bongamus now. Okay? I can do this. We're going through the remaining 13. So here we are. A partner and I were dispatched to do a welfare check. Elderly guy, nobody had seen him in a few days. The mail's overflowing in his mailbox, missed a doctor's appointment, car hasn't moved, etc. We both know we are about to find a damn body. We arrive on the scene, can't get anyone to the door, look through the window, and sure enough, we see his foot on the floor in the living room. My partner is a corporal and pulls rank and makes me go first. The door is unlocked, and as soon as we open, we smell a mostly fresh dead body. Almost relieved, we both enter and he tells me to check vitals on the dead dude. He's obviously dead, with lividity, dried feces on him, dried saliva around his mouth. So I go to stand over him, see if I can get a pulse, at which point he takes a deep breath, oh my God, rolls over, and asks why we're in his house.
What are you doing in my house?
Oh, shit. At this point, we both start screaming, oh shit, what the fucks, and we both run out of the house. We call EMS, they transport the guy, said they couldn't get blood pressure or a pulse on him. I think he died a week later in the hospital. I still get jokes about raising the dead. Yo! Oh my God, no. No, you didn't. I don't think I could survive. I don't think I could survive a real life cliche dead person jump scare, my dude. Okay? It's not like somebody your age pulled this shit on you, like a old nigga with shit that you could smell on that ass. And dried saliva all over his face, a old man on the ground. I happen to believe that with a voice like mine, that I would pierce the sky with a shout that would resound and fuck people's eardrums in a way where I would scare this man to death. He trying to scare me, I scare him. You know what I'm talking about? Just screaming like, oh, nigga, you know what I'm talking about? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Number 12, okay? I am a CNA in a local hospital. One of my patients just had a quadruple bypass. That's open heart surgery. For you dumb motherfuckers, okay? Watch some Simpsons, okay? I remember that episode of The Simpsons. Homer's quadruple bypass now. I went in to check her vitals. The room was dim and the hall was quiet. I'm looking at her and in the corner of my eye I see something drop from the ceiling out of nowhere. It makes a big clunk sound and I turn to see what it could be. There's nothing there. At that moment, my patient looks up at me and says, "My dad's here," and then passes back out. I finish my job and leave. When I would go to the floor again as a floater, I would hate to go into that room. Man. What we all need to do is get kid laughter. On like our phones as like a ringtone or something. Nope. Jesus Christ. What the fuck was that? What was that? No. Yeah, that's the one. This is a soundbite you hear everywhere. You have to wonder who that is, you know? That's in everything now. Yeah. Kids are fucking creepy on their own. Fuck kids. God. Just put one of those right in front of you and you just get chills. It will happen to you. No, it won't. Get away from me. No, please. No. Number 11. This was a couple years ago, while I still worked in a general patrol car. We got a call for sudden death, you know? Smash Bros is getting serious. I'm kidding. Sad call, okay? Foster parent found their foster child hanging in a closet? Yo. We arrived on scene, found the foster parent sobbing on the main floor, told us that the kid was upstairs. Paramedic had already came and gone, pronouncing the youth deceased, likely from the night before. The kid had tied a belt around her neck to the closet rod, for lack of better term, and hung themselves. The foster parent had cut them down and called 911, and thus the body was slumped on the floor. We conducted an investigation to ensure that there was nothing suspicious, which included a visual inspection of the scene, questioning of anyone in the house at the time, contacting the medical examiner, etc. Here's where it gets screwy for me. As I'm in the room alone with the deceased, looking around the room, all of a sudden I hear a loud clanging coming from the closet. There's something eerie about being alone in a room with a dead body. It was always in the back of my mind. And when the sound happened, I almost shit myself. I turn and look to the closet and see a single hanger spinning around and around the closet rod. Almost as if someone manually tried to start a propeller on a plane. No one else in the room but me and the deceased. And I pride myself on being able to stay composed in some pretty intense situations through my career, but that one stuck with me. To this day I can't explain it, and I can't find a reasonable explanation as to how it would have happened. Maybe it was paranormal, maybe I was tired. Who's to know? Who's to know? Number 9. My dad used to work as a correctional officer at Goulburn Jail in Australia. which is probably one of the oldest and hardest prisons out there. A story he tells me of this time there is one I always remember. He said that the whole place was creepy anyway, not helped by some of the inmates at the time, including the notorious Ivan Mila, on which Wolf Creek is based. Anyway, first thing he noticed was that the dogs would outright refuse to enter the prison. He said that they couldn't get them past the gate no matter how hard they tried. But the creepiest occurrence was one night when they heard the sound of running, booted footsteps everywhere. And everyone was in their cells, so they couldn't figure out what was causing it. Next thing, all of the doors of the open and unoccupied cells on the top floor were banged shut, one after another with loud clangs. Then we see the source of the running noise. Thank you, Michael. Now, Dad swears this is what he and his colleague saw. Apparently, they looked up and saw what looked like disembodied hobnail boots running down the aisle right above their heads, banging as they went. Dad decided to stop working in the prison not long after this. Super creepy. Nigga. Number 8, okay? Late summer night, responding to a call in a rural area. My partner and I were driving down a winding 2-lane highway in the middle of nowhere. Not light. My God. My God, my God, my God. No light of any kind other than the headlight and moon. We're coming up to a sharp right turn when I see a man traveling across the grass from an area of brush. He's moving very quickly and smoothly as if hauling ass on a bicycle. No up and down motion like running, obviously. I'm pretty confused about a hillbilly on a bike in the middle of the night, but not surprised. He comes to a tree and he stops. It's about this time we're driving by him, look out a window and see a man standing next to this tree with no bike or anything in sight. Just standing there, staring at the truck passing by. My hair is standing up. We continue towards the call, and I ask my partner if he had seen that guy. He responds, "Man, I thought I was crazy." Nigga. Number 7. Oh my God, do they get any longer? I'm dying. Woo! Okay, oh my God. This is some paranormal shit. How fucking much people get over it. This is unexplained and probably just coincidence, but I still never mention it to my coworkers. I spent some time as a homicide investigator. We would respond to all apparent suicides and investigate them just to make sure that it wasn't a homicide. Usually we determined a motive for suicide and found a note or other indicator that the person had killed themselves. One guy just taped a note to his chest that said, "Happy now, bitch?" and made sure his wife found him after he hung himself. Wow. But occasionally you get a case where all forensic evidence indicates the person killed themselves, but there's no note and no discernible reason why this person would be suicidal. These are people in good health with decent careers and a seemingly happy family life, but for whatever reason they just didn't feel like donating to Kyle and then they decided to kill themselves. You know what I'm talking about? That's a pretty fucked up joke, Kyle. You better keep reading. But who knows what's really going on with someone? I'm so tired. Here's the part that freaks me out. I've worked maybe 10 suicides like this. The last 3 before I felt homicide. Is that what it says? Felt? You're dyslexic now. The last 3 before I left homicide all had the same things at the scene. These was a little decorative wicker lighthouse at each location. It was the same lighthouse, same design, and painted white and blue. It stuck out to me the first time, because it was by the bed where the body was, but 2 weeks later I saw the same damn lighthouse on another suicide. What? Here's the part that freaks me out. I've worked maybe 10 suicides like this. The last 3 before I left homicide all had the same thing at the scene. These were these little decorative wicker lighthouses at each scene. A wicker lighthouse. Much like a basket, but it's made, you know, but it's painted blue and white. It was the same lighthouse, same design, painted blue and white. It stuck out to me the first time because it was by the bed where the body was. But 2 weeks later, I saw the same damn lighthouse on another suicide and even pointed it out, the coincidence, to a patrol officer. A few months later, I go to another suicide and I see the same wicker lighthouse. That's when it clicks that it's always been unexplained suicides. I go back, look at a crime scene photo for every suicide I've worked on. In 2 of them, I see what could be the wicker lighthouse, but the angle is off. There's too much junk for me to say. I don't fucking know. I thought it was creepy as hell, but I transferred a couple of months later and I'll let it go. The blue and white wicker lighthouse killer. The wicker lighthouse killer. Yes, it is me. I can barely keep up with all my wicker lighthouses for the people that I make look like an accident. You could be next. Oh, omelette du fromage. It's a good thing I don't have a P.O. box, dude. I would be horrified if somebody sent a blue and white wicker lighthouse to me, man. Not that I have enough subs to where shit like that would fucking happen, but it would be really scary if, like, oh boy. That's why I read so much shit, because I'll inevitably forget it here. That's creepy. Number 6. When I was in Afghanistan on guard duty, I turned to see the huge panther in the middle of the farm field. Let's try this again. I turned to see this huge panther in the middle of the farm field. The thing must have been 30 feet long. My heart started pounding like crazy, and I just radioed it in. I realized that my NODS removed my depth perception, and I was seeing a normal cat about 5 or so feet in front of me. Oh boy. I think the fucking pussy ass checkers actually gave me heartburn. Oh boy. Kevin Bigworm says, add it to your wish list, Kyle. I have real things to add to my wish list as we arrive closer to the birthday soon, but I don't know what I need is the problem. I don't think I need anything. I think you guys have already hooked Kyle up with everything that I need to make my shit happen. So I need to just try to, you know, kick myself into another gear. If anything, I'll just try to get a writer. Then I don't have to do all this shit, and I could just churn it out. Turn it on, mic it up, record it down, and churn it out. Like a bitch boy. Big bitch boy, stomping in my Air Force Ones. Number 5. My grandpa was RIO in Vietnam, basically the guy who told the pilot where to go and what was ahead. One day, him and his team is finishing up a mission, and one of his buddies in another jet barrels roll... So sorry. One of his buddies in another jet barrel rolls over him. He then descends into the clouds, and they never saw him again. He just vanished. They searched for weeks, but no crash site, no communications, nothing. Just poof. Gone. Somebody said it was such a sick move that the dude couldn't be seen again because he knew it couldn't be topped. Okay. Wow. Number 4. I can do this. All right. Bread's all like, So you sound like bread. Ugh. What's not done here? Wait. It says edit. Okay, well that you want me to read these edits? You're a cuck. You're a cuck. These edits don't contribute anything good. The edits aren't what are initially upvoted. You understand? You understand what I'm saying when I say that? The edits aren't what gets anything notoriety. Okay? The edits are just people fucking losing their pussy ass faggot brain and mind over the attention that they're receiving. A true fucking non-virgin doesn't edit their posts. They let them be what they are and coast. You know what I mean? Because if your post is legit enough, it'll get fucking deleted. You know what I mean? I've auteured some gangster shit on Reddit, baby, and they've received so much attention so fucking fast that I have been told on multiple occasions that I must be using bots or Chinese people to click my shit, so they've removed my fucking spam, and that's that. You know what I mean? When your shit's genuinely that good, it'll do the pickling for yourself. You don't need to edit your post because people are sending you messages or let's see what this says, because if it doesn't blow my fucking balls off, bread, we're blaming it on you, nigga. We're blaming it on you. You fucking virgin. I'm kidding. I love you, man. Well, that got more of a response than I was anticipating. Oh, just jack that dick off, man. To answer the question of was it a serial killer, I very much doubt it. These were clearly suicides, most of which had no feasible alternative explanation. We work every suicide as if it were a homicide. An apparent suicide is almost always a suicide, but we are on the side of caution. We err on the side of caution. Look at this nigga. Why don't he just get hidden immediately? Logan Paul. You see what I mean? Oh my god. Also, while serial killers are actually more common than most people think, they rarely leave calling cards or anything like you see in movies. It's usually some fucked up dude that has a particular taste. So listen up, dudes. That's the takeaway here. Serial killers are all around you. Some of the dopest serial killers are fucking popping the fuck off right now. But you want to know what makes them a serial killer? That they're capable of outsmarting the police. And they're capable of remaining hidden and not doing it in an obnoxious way. And that's why they still haven't been caught, okay? And most importantly, and here's the scary thing, the police aren't releasing information of these niggas because they're keeping those investigations close to the fucking chest in the hopes of being able to catch him. Because it'd be like me playing a game of Battleship with someone and then showing all of my pieces and places to you guys, okay? If I show you guys everything where I am, I have no certainty that one of you won't turncoat and then go show the other people. And that will allow him to strategize based on the information. So much like the police gathering information on a serial killer, they can't just let them know, like, this is what we know, this is how he operates, you know what I mean? These are the types of people that fall into that criteria, because the police have eventually, even though it took years, learned from their pussy ass mistakes. Boys, let's finish this list though, man, because I'm getting honestly, I'm getting a little drained. I shouldn't have done 35, maybe 30 or even 25. I feel terrible to admit it, but that the truthy wooth. It's the truthu. Number 4. Once we had a call at our local mall. Once we had a call at our local mall. Show up and an 8-year-old was having breathing problems. Her mother, aunt, and cousin had just been caught stealing, and it was late at night. We assumed the breathing problem was stress-induced, and once we got into the back of our unit, she looked my partner and myself in the eyes and said that she lived at a bad place. She said she lived with demons, and I shit you not, as she described the demons, her heart rate plummeted to 9 beats per minute to 45 beats per minute in a matter of seconds. My partner and I looked at each other and immediately started trying to lighten the mood and prepare for a code. She ended up being okay, but I will never forget that experience. Boy number 3. Burglary alarm reported to dispatch from a private company. A motion sensor went off in a local business. Usually the alarms don't send an alert requiring police response unless 3 sensors pick up movement. Usually we don't respond to these kinds of calls unless a person calls us. Sometimes we don't even respond to 911 hangups, so we go. Since now 2 other alarms for motion get tripped. Another unit and I set up canvas on the building. Nothing strange on the outside. Doesn't appear to have any forced entry. Other unit and I get permission to enter from building owner. We go through a side door on this thrift shop. We announce ourselves, no response. We clear the entire 2 stories of a standard thrift shop size, not too big. We don't find anything. Store owner meets us outside with an iPad to show us camera footage. The 3 alarms that get tripped show a faint gust of wind that moves clothes on the racks. We just assumed that it was a draft because it happened on 3 consecutive clothing racks. So the owner resets the alarms and we leave. 15 minutes later, the store owner calls us and wants to meet again to show us something. Clear as freaking day. As my partner and I were leaving the side door after clearing the building, is a shadow figure appearing to wave at us, saying goodbye. Chills hit me. I didn't want to accept or deny it. We occasionally get tripped alarms anytime we don't respond to the place. More alarms get tripped until we at least show up. If we show up, we will have a 6 to 8 week streak without any activity. We think there's something just wanting police friends. We did research and we can't find anything regarding death or dying in the building. Who knows? As long as it's friendly, it can trip whatever alarm it wants. I still won't go in without a partner. It's stories like this where there's a reoccurrence that you can't swallow. Because if it were really happening, you would try to record it. You lying motherfucker. Like the video, okay? Like the video. Number 2. Obligatory, not my story, but when I read this, I thought it was pretty fucked up. An elderly lady phoned 911 and requested that they send some policemen down to her house because she saw a shadowy figure lurking in her backyard. She was living by herself at night and didn't feel safe watching someone through her window. When the police arrived, the door was unlocked. They walked in, found the lady seated facing the window, and they went to go check the backyard. There were no signs of anyone attempting to break and enter, and nothing was missing. She had very tall fences surrounding her property, making it nearly impossible for anyone to get into it. They did, however, find footprints on the inside of her home. It was quite possible that she had left her door unlocked and wasn't looking outside, but rather at a reflection of someone inside her home behind her. Oh my God. Oh my God. Number 1. Former EMT, firefighter here. One night we got a call to do a wellness check on somebody who dialed 911 but didn't respond to the operator. We pulled up to the address and the house looks perfectly quaint and a little old lady greets us at the door. We asked her if she knew who placed the call, but she told us that she lived alone since her husband died. We barely got back to the station before a call comes in again. Same address as before. So we drive back out, talk to the old lady again, then leave again. Just as we get back to the station, same call, same address, no response. We drive out there again, believing that the old lady must have been confused. But this time when we pull up to the driveway, the old lady wasn't at the door to greet us. There was no reply at the door, but it was unlocked. We take a peek inside to find the old lady was on the floor and wasn't breathing. We rush in to help and got her to the hospital in stable condition. When she woke up in the ambulance, she still claimed that she never called us and that we arrived almost immediately after she had fallen. It was a 15-minute drive to her house from the station. Before she was admitted to the hospital, she asked me and another EMT if we could bring her knitting needles and a bag of clothes. I offered to pick up her stuff because I had a friend who lived in that area and we were going to hang out anyway. I pick up my friend, drive to the lady's house, ran inside to grab the bag and knitting stuff while my buddy sat in the car. But just as I was leaving, I swear I felt a hand on my back, and I heard a voice say, "Thank you." When I get back into my car, my friend asked me, why couldn't the lady's husband bring her stuff to the hospital? I explained that her husband was dead. But when I said that, my friend said, but I saw an old guy in the window. He smiled and waved at me. At first, I refused. I refused to believe in anything supernatural. So I called the police and asked them to do a sweep of the house. I thought it was a squatter. Nothing was out of the ordinary, and no one was inside. I later brought my friend to visit the lady. He started describing the old dude who was in the window, but the old lady almost immediately started tearing up and said, "That's my Harold."
That's my Harold. That's my fucking Harold. He's always looking out for me.
So that's the list, guys. I made it through. Fuck me. And it only took a week. Here's hoping you've all had an interesting day and that things are making sense. Linda says it's not sad, it just is. What's sad? Could you imagine calling an infant Harold? You call him Harry and he's young, dude. Something like that. Linda says, I don't dream, not good dreams anyway. Oh, that's what they're saying is sad. Glad you guys are talking amongst yourselves and hoping that you guys have had a relatively interesting and stress-free day. That you guys have hopefully been able to turn into something at least relatively productive. You know how it is. I hope somebody is pleased or satisfied or at least amused you today. Because you deserve that celebration. Ginger ale needs its own holiday. It's a standalone beverage. It works with most alcohols, medicine for any illness, a life coach, a friend, a spiritual advisor. Canada Dry is my choice. Ginger ale, oh me, oh my. They're so stupid. Impressed sometimes that dogs manage to discipline themselves not to bite their own tongues, you know? God, X-Men was dope, dude. What do you think Marvel's gonna do with the X-Men, dude? You know? Oh man, look at Wolverine, Gambit, dude. Gambit. Old school Gambit, that fucking outfit. Beast, Cyclops, Jubilee. Rogan, who that? Psylocke in the back, dude? Jubilee with her sparkly ass. Jeez. Straight whack. But I loved her. There's got to be some sexy Jubilee cosplays. I do hate the cast for the new Jubilee. Come on, man. Give these niggas some personality. It's not going to kill y'all. Let me see a good Jubilee cosplay. Jubilee X-Men cosplay. And am I going to judge it based on the titties? No, no, no. Maybe, though. What's going on here? Too Asian. Not because that she's Asian, but because she ain't thick enough. You know what I mean? You ever see some thick-ass Asian girls and you go to yourself, now that's what I'm talking about. Okay, well, I like the boobs, but you got a face like a dude. Not that there's anything wrong with that these days, right? People are into dude-faced women. I guess you got the right type of rack. Well, why is there a corset here? It's like it's some kind of steampunk Jubilee. That's actually just a bedazzled bra that you're wearing. Woman. What are you doing? Woman. Oh my god, look at the anime Jubilee. Sugoi. Now that's the type of Asian I can get down on, okay? Look, man, I am shocked that these are such boring looking Jubilees when the girl's been knocking the Misty cosplays out of the park. You know what I mean? I'm not into Twiggy girls like, damn, boy, you got them, oh, damn, you don't talk about, damn. Wait a minute, baby. Now that's what I'm talking about. Oh, hell yeah. Now that's what I'm talking about. Beefy Misty. Ooh. Oh, okay. Okay, you see what I mean? Now this is what I'm talking about. Toge Pri. You know what I mean? Toge Pri. Bruh. Alright. Alright. You guys had a great night. Okay. Hey, y'all want to hear something funny? And it's, you know, it's not racially insensitive. It was just a funny meme that I saw. Nah, you guys are going to take it the wrong way. You guys take everything the wrong way. Man shot in the head. Ooh, maybe not. Read, Kyle. Read things for a change. I am done reading. I'm out of the reading mood now. Oh, boy. Linda says, Quiplash, sweetie, come on. I have killed myself with this list. An hour and 44 minutes. Something about this one just destroyed me. It's because I had a long day before. You know, I've been going out every day. And that's not what I'm about. It really isn't. And trying to squeeze my work into then doing these streams. You know what I mean? God. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. And I love doing this. And I have to continue. And I always will try as best I can. But man, when I leave the house and I come back in, it's just like something was taken from me. And I hate that feeling. Roger says, glad to see you're walking more. It wasn't that I was walking more, dude. I actually didn't get much walking done today. Usually I hop on the treadmill, but when I have to go out, you know, I don't feel like that's energy I have reserved. You know what I mean? I feel like I need to, like, I need to go out first. And then when I come back, if I got the energy to walk, I don't want to be in a situation where I walk first and then I go out and I'm like, no, nigga, I can't do this. You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. So, you know what? We're fine. We made it through today. Oh, look at Black Kitty. he figured out how to be a creep. I like that. Oh boy. I hope you guys have a great day. Great night. Get a hold of me, you know how. I really chose an ignorant yeah, a monster hunter. I hunt that monster, you know what I'm talking about? I really hope you guys chose a no, I'm sorry that I chose Subnautica today because it was pretty whack. I did try something more fun than boy. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love this. I love that everybody's playing Monster Hunter World and this idiot's still clinging to Destiny 2. Wake up, nigga. Wake up. Nobody. Ooh, even the few months that game had was too much. Destiny 2 was trash, dude. Guys, I love you. Get a hold of me. You'll see me soon. Let's do this. Discord links in the description if you guys are dying for each other. And I'll talk to you soon. I feel so drained. Bye, baby. Love you.